Oh yeah. Oh shoot. You're right. Are you able to put people into breakup groups, Elaine? I can't hear you. You're muted. Uh, you're muted.
Okay, I can't do anything till he makes me a co-host, so I've
Okay.
sent him a chat asking for that.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not getting
Yeah.
You're a
audio
co-host right now, but
from you guys
yeah.
just yet, so I'm gonna try and figure
Okay.
that out.
Oh,
Okay. Sounds good.
Is that Andrew? Hi, Andrew. I'm Elaine.
There we go.
Can you do that? And then part of the breakout groups are going to be inside the church as well, right? So
Let's see where they always change these things. Where are the breakout groups, Jer? I don't have breakout things yet.
Or I've added you as a co-host now, Elaine.
Okay.
Might.
So let me see if I can find. Ah, why do they keep changing it on me here? It's been a while since we've done one online. Uh, okay, got breakout rooms, good. So we'll probably have five, maybe, or depends how many online people we have. Okay.
all right.
Okay. Okay, and I'm gonna practice now the sharing, Jer. Okay.
Sharing. Okay. Would-
Okay, can you see the slides, Jer?
Yeah, I got them here. You see
No,
them?
but yeah, I do see them for everybody to see. The ones I've started sharing. I'm screen sharing.
I just have them on my computer, Elaine. I don't know. I see the slides.
Okay,
We can see
I'm
them here.
screen sharing. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
okay,
we
we'll
can
have to
see
see if
them. Right, Andrew? Are you there, Andrew?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so you
can,
can see
can
them, right?
you
Yes, I can.
Oh,
Okay.
awesome. Thank you. Okay, so should I stop until everyone gets here, Jer?
Yeah, we start at 5. Am I right, Andrew? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5
Okay,
o'clock.
I'll
Just give
stop
people time to get
sharing.
on.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I
Then
think
we've tried that.
I think we're ready to
Anything
go.
else? Anything else we need to do?
No, you're gonna share your grief story, right, Elaine?
If you have
Yeah.
time, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Sounds good. I think we're
we're
good.
ready to go then.
Yeah.
I will mute myself.
Only thing I'm trying to figure out is how to get you guys on the screen.
Oh yeah, for the church, right?
Yeah, when you guys, so we've got the, um, maybe when you are sharing your story, I'm just trying to figure out how to get it so we can see you guys and the slides,
Yeah. Okay.
at least for part of it.
Yeah, but everybody will see the slides, right? Am I
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's important. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's most important.
Okay.
Oh, it's nice to meet you, Andrew. I don't know. Have I met you before?
I
I
don't
can't remember.
know. I've seen you around at conferences and things, but
Yeah. Well, it's great. Thank you for inviting us.
oh, absolutely. Thank you for making time for us.
No problem. It's an honor for us to be here.
Maybe I'll move you over for now so people can see you, and then I can slide you back over.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Cool. I can see myself on the screen there at the church.
You can see some of who's here,
Oh, nice. Hello, everybody.
the backs of people.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice looking church.
We've been very blessed with some renovations over the years.
Looks like a Don Hockey church. Am I right?
I think you're right.
Yeah. In Aurora, we built a Don Hockey church
Yeah.
when we pastored there. It's the same kind of concept. So,
Yeah, when I pastored in Millbrook, it was the same church.
yeah.
I've had a few
Same.
people come through and say it looks the same as their church. So
Yeah. Yeah. Looks nice. Looks very nice. Don Hockey's still going strong. He's not working anymore, but he's in the he's in our Pentecostal church in, wait a minute, what town is it? I forget what town it is. He's in his 80s and yeah. Wasaga, yeah.
oh, okay, yeah. That'd be at Clearview Community, eh?
That's it. Thank you. You just helped me with Jason Burt is his pastor
Jason Burt's in Wasaga, eh? Or
in
is he?
Clearview.
Yeah, Clearview.
Clearview?
Yeah, Clearview's got a
That's where,
few campuses.
yeah, that's where Don is. I did a seminar for Clearview mental
Yes.
health thing. Actually, a grief thing, like this.
Yeah, that might have been at my home church growing up.
Oh, isn't that something?
Yeah, the
Cool.
Collingwood campus is my home church.
Cool. Yeah.
People are coming in. And
Nice. So I have one more question, Andrew, because
Yep.
we're doing both, right? Virtual and online. Sorry,
Yes.
virtual and in person. Um, I'm gonna ask, we're gonna have a few breakout groups. So do you have a microphone whereby some people from the groups can report to the rest of the groups and I can hear them? This is kind of I just thought of this in the last minute here.
Yeah.
Where they could come to the front and maybe just share a little bit of what their group came up with. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I have a handheld microphone that I'm holding, so we
Okay.
can share that.
Okay. And they can go in front of to the front there a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, they might
Not
be
that,
feeling shy, but we can pass it around. I think it's
yeah.
for the people who are online. There's
Yeah.
probably a similar amount of people online who are taking
Okay.
it. So
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that right now, right? So generally we try to be very interactive.
okay. Well, we're still a few minutes out from like official
Yeah.
start time. Just wanted to give lots of time and lots of room for people to figure out the online and everything. But
Yep.
why don't we take a moment and I'll say hi and welcome to everybody
Mhm.
for coming, for joining us in person, or if you're with us online. So glad that you guys are here with us tonight. And something that's we've been praying about as a church and just recognizing a need for just helping people navigate grief and loss. It's very
Yeah.
close to all of us.
Mm.
And so thank you for making the time this evening. And Jerry and his wife are counselors and pastors with our denomination, our district, and they do quite a number of these
Yep.
throughout the year all over the province, and I'm sure further. And Jerry, I think you could probably do a better job of introducing you than I could. But you know, so in a moment, maybe you could just share a bit about
Yeah.
yourselves and where you guys are from.
Mm.
But we're
Yep.
really grateful for you guys making the time this evening. And we've got snacks and stuff at the back as well. So we could maybe take a moment and grab some food, get loaded up so that we're ready to go
Yeah.
in a minute. And it's going to be, yeah, an interactive evening. So if you guys, I can get some paper and pens and stuff as well for those of you that need that. And
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Pardon? I can do that. I've got line paper actually, so yeah. Any questions or anything before we begin? Yeah. I think that's what Jerry was thinking. Just to share so the people online in their breakout groups. I got a microphone. I can bring it down. Yeah. I can move the camera around. Yeah. So of course. Yeah. That's beauty of wireless. And so yeah, absolutely. Okay. Um, any other questions before we get started? Okay, maybe we could pray for the food, grab some food, and then maybe we could just take some time just to introduce ourselves for those who are here. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's pray. Jesus, we just thank you for this evening. God, we thank you for that you are the God of all comfort. God, we thank you that you are a God who is acquainted with grief and you do not stay away from the difficult things of life. And so I just pray tonight, God, that your spirit would draw near and draw close to us. Just pray, God, that you would be with us as we fellowship, as we learn, as we process, and learn how to grieve well together. And so pray that you bless this food, bless our time together. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
All right, so feel free to grab some goodies at the back, and then we can a few more minutes, and we'll get started.
Jer?
Yep.
So I'll just switch the slides and if I miss it, then say switch the slides. Next
Well,
slide,
I can
okay?
do it myself.
I don't think so. If
I'm doing
I'm
it right
doing
now.
yeah, but that's not for the people. That's just for you, right? I think
Oh, you mean,
if I share it,
oh,
then I have, if I'm
really?
sharing,
So the slides don't switch up there. I see. Yeah. Then you have to do it. Yeah, okay. I'll let you know.
Okay. Well,
But you
if,
can kind of follow along. Like the next
yeah,
one is
that's what,
why are we here? Can you see my
yeah.
slides?
Well, I
You
can
can.
now, but I think it once I share them, I can't, you know?
All right. Well, try
We've never
sharing.
done,
Well, just try sharing.
well, I tried it before, remember?
Okay. It works?
Now I have to find them again here. Do you see them?
Well, I got them on my computer.
Oh, but do you see them?
Oh, no, I see them, but now I see that you did the question mark, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I can also see them on mine, but you have to do it. Yeah, so go to the first slide.
Well, okay, now prayer.
Yeah, that's right. But go to the first slide again. It works. Yeah, you'll have to do it. So go to the first slide. That's it, the intro. Walking through grief. I changed it to walking through grief, which is good, I
But you
think.
still have traumatic grief.
I don't, not on mine.
Yeah, but you see, you changed yours, but you didn't change mine, right? You sent me the slides before. Okay,
Oh,
let
why
me.
don't you just change it to, I changed it to walking through grief. So you can do that. Just change it to walking through grief. Can you do it? I made a mistake. Can you
Okay, can
change?
you see it? Can you see it
Well,
now?
I'm watching this Andrew screens. Okay, so I'm sure it's good. Just walking through grief. That's it.
Okay.
Excellent. And then you can you follow along? Like why are we here? And I'm going to ask for input from the group. You know what I mean? Why did you come to this? Right? You'll watch me as I talk, and then I'll go into the prayer. Right? Anyway, we'll figure it out. And I also, what else did I do? No, that's it. Just walking through grief. And one more thing that I changed I took out the name of the church. Can you remove it?
There's no name of the church.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
Oh, Living Community Church. That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
What is
yeah. Is that the name of
is
the
there?
church?
I don't know, Jared. I have no
The
clue.
name of the church is Living Way.
Living
Okay.
Way. I thought it was wrong. Yeah, Living Way. Let's change that to Living Way on the slide. Sorry about that, Andrew.
Deeply, deeply offended.
I know that your church is famous because Pastor Jason started there, I think.
Yes. Yeah, he's a hero to us here.
He often talks about the church, that church, your church, sorry.
Well, it's all God's church, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
That is true. Have we
Mm.
got that fixed?
Yes.
All right, good.
Okay. Did you see my message to you?
One new. Yeah, that's good. That's excellent that people can go into the chat. Yeah, that's
So
excellent.
should I stop sharing for now?
No, no,
Or are
it's
you
okay.
okay?
No, no,
Okay,
you
we'll leave it
share.
up.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Um, I have one more thought, Andrew. Sorry, I'm kind of doing last minute stuff here.
Yep, it's all good.
If anyone has a question while I'm talking, that's fine. If you can take the mic to them, I'm very open to that. You know what I mean? Like if that
Mhm.
works.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
then Elaine will watch the chats in the chat room, and I'll try to address some
So,
questions.
so how do you want me to, just a sec. Think I muted myself. How do you want me to let you know when there's a question?
Just tell me when there's a break and where I talk. Just tell me there's a question that came up. You know what I mean? So then you ask the question if that's okay, Elaine. So
You're not watching the chat, are you?
I'm not watching the chat. I can't, but you can help me with that if that's all right. I think we're good to go.
Just about. Right. Right, Jerry, we're ready when you guys are.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay, feel free to take things away.
Okay, thank you so much, Pastor. My name is it's by the way, I want to start by thanking you, Pastor, for Andrew, for inviting us today. It's an honor to be able to serve you in this capacity. My name is Jerry Ton, and my wife is online as well. Her name is Elaine Ton. And we have been asked since about 2018, I can't remember, around 2018, to facilitate mental health seminars for the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada, which we've been doing across Canada through Mission Canada. And right now we facilitate about 30 seminars a year on average, primarily in the field of mental health. Ironically, this week I have 5 seminars that we are facilitating, um, 2 non-Christian ones, and then next weekend 3 days at Calvary in Cambridge And so it's an honor to be able to do this. I taught at Masters Bible College and Seminary for 15 years. I kind of ran the psych department there, and we taught the undergrads there in psychology. A little bit about my background, but I've been a pastor for over 40 years, lead pastor in 2 churches, spanning 26 years, 13 years at Aurora Cornerstone Church, and 13 years at Cedarview Church in Paris, Ontario. So we have kind of a pastoral background as well as a teaching background. The best news is we have 2 married daughters, 5 grandchildren. All our kids are serving the Lord. As a matter of fact, our 2 daughters are married to pastors' kids, so every one of our kids are PKs, so to speak. And our daughter is credentialed with Eastern. The youngest daughter is credentialed with the EOD and is involved in missions work. And so it's been an honor to be able to serve God and in this kind of a capacity. During COVID, and I'm trying to remember the year, I think it was 2021, might have been 2020. I think it was 2021 actually. Um, Lori Gibbons asked if I would go into a church in Scarborough, and it was an ethnic church that had about 70 people in the church. Since then, I've preached there multiple times. And in this ethnic church of 70 people, 6 people died of COVID during COVID. Within a span of, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks, 6 people died in the congregation. On top of that, there were a number of others that were very ill and almost lost their life. And so we went in and we did a 2 months, Wednesday nights, I think, or 6 weeks of every Wednesday night of grief work with the congregation. And that's actually where we wrote most of the material that I'm going to share with you today, was through doing this seminar for this church where the 6 people died of COVID, which was pretty traumatic and pretty tragic for a small church in Toronto. So since then, we have done multiple grief seminars. I have one other seminar that I talked to Pastor Andrew about that kind of connects to this one, but I'm not going to do it today because I'm willing to do it another time, and that's traumatic grief, which is even more complicated than just, I don't like to use the word normal grief, but there's there's grief and then there's traumatic grief. Traumatic grief is primarily when there's a loss of life where there's no anticipation of loss of life, like a car accident, a heart attack. It comes suddenly. I this September, one of my neighbors who live, let me see, 3 houses down from us, we became good friends over the years. They go to Cedarview Church. They went to Cedarview Church in Newmarket, which is one of our Eastern Ontario district churches. She was our dental hygienist. She was in great physical shape. The whole family is. There's no issues of, health issues that I could see. And we watched one night as she died of a massive heart failure, um, out of the blue, unexpected. I was with the gentleman, the husband. I was comforting him. I was praying with him. I was there when he got the news that there was everything. The paramedics did everything they could to try to save her life. Anyway, the funeral took place at Cedarview Church in Newmarket in September, like 10 days later, or maybe a week later. There were 700 people at the funeral. That was an incident of traumatic grief. I have, as a pastor of over 42 years, I've seen a number of tragedies happen um, in the church. I'm going to share one story later on that I'm just going to go through a little bit. One of my parishioners, she lost 2 husbands before she was 40, and very again a very tragic event. Her last husband, we knew him. He was in our church. He was on fire for the Lord. He was a worshiper. He was passionate. And then he also dropped dead of heart failure And we began to realize the impact of grief. Grief is a real issue that we all need to wrestle with, and that we do wrestle with. And I'm just trusting today that the Lord will be glorified. Perhaps I'm just going to open up in prayer and ask God to give us wisdom today. Father, I just come to you today and I just ask you, Lord, for your wisdom, for you to help us as we talk through this very important subject of walking through grief. I pray, God, that you'd give us your wisdom that comes from you, and understanding, and help us to understand, Lord, that grief is real. It's not something we can avoid or pray away or any of these kinds of things. It's part of life. And the good thing is, of course, if we know you, we do not grieve like the world, but still, there's still grief. And I pray, God, that you would teach us today. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. And so I'd like to begin with some interaction. Elaine, my wife, is going to be my producer today. She's going to watch the chats that are in the chat room. And Andrew's going to run around with a microphone, I think. And I want to ask the question. So, Elaine, if we can go to the next slide, I want to ask the question, why did you come to this event today? I'd like some feedback from within the congregation, if that is okay. So, can we take a moment and try to respond to this? Anyone? Why did you come?
Hi, my name is Melanie Dixon. I came
Hi.
because I'm suffering from traumatic grief. Um,
Okay.
and so I don't know if this is where I want to be right now or what, but I'm hoping that you're going to miraculously just cure me. And I'll have no more
Okay.
PTSD and no more anxiety and panic attacks. That'd be great.
Okay. So, Melanie,
It's been 3
I'm
years.
gonna touch on traumatic grief, but then the next time I come, I'm gonna do a whole seminar on traumatic grief. But I'm
That
gonna
would be
touch on it
fantastic.
today.
That would be
Okay.
fantastic.
Yeah. Because it's a totally different kind of grief. It's like apples and oranges. And some of the grief groups we go to, like Grief Share, we ran Grief Share. We often do not deal with traumatic grief. We deal with generalized grief, right? And but traumatic grief is, I empathize with you. It's a whole different ballgame. So thank you for coming. Anyone else?
Yeah, my name is Carolyn. Just
Mhm.
different grief in life, from
Oh,
patients that I worked with to
mhm.
loss of relationship to back to in a relationship. I believe it's all grief.
Yeah, you're right. And you bring out a really significant point that often when we think of grief, we're thinking of death and dying. That's a major part of grief. But anything like a job loss, a divorce, family issues with the kids, all those kinds of things can contribute to grief and are part of grief. And we have to work through the grief process in every situation in life. Great job. I forgot to
Derek,
mention some, yeah,
Sandra lost her sister 5 months ago, so that's the reason she's here.
so sorry to hear that. So sorry to hear that. And those are things that we have to navigate through, and they're so hard to work through and process. And glad you came. Yeah. Anyone else?
Um, I lost my mom
Hmm.
40 years ago,
Yeah.
and my dad died in July of this year, suddenly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And somehow I'm feeling totally different. I don't understand it. When my
Right.
mother died, I was down, like completely down.
Yeah.
This
Right.
time is coming in waves. I don't know what's going to hit me,
Yeah.
and I'm feeling kind of abnormal.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
hoping to get some help.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming, and hopefully the Lord can help us navigate those things. We call that cumulative grief, and often grief is layered, and especially if we've lost two close people to us in a very within a short span, that's cumulative grief, and it even becomes more complex. So we'll try to tackle some of that today. Thank you for coming. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Marcella.
Hi.
I invited my mom to come with me today. My stepdad was recently diagnosed with terminal cancer. So
Yeah.
the opposite of traumatic grief, we have a very long anticipatory
Right.
wait for what is inevitably to come.
Yep.
So I invited her to come to get some information and to kind of start a journey into her
Yeah.
grief. She unfortunately didn't feel up to coming today, and I almost
Yeah.
canceled too, decided to come anyways. I feel like to
Yeah.
support her through this, even though
Yeah.
she's not here.
Thank you for coming. We are going to address anticipatory grief in today as well. And thank you for coming. That was one of the subjects I'll address is the subject of anticipatory grief. Anyone else? Elaine, are there any chats coming through? Any people?
Someone is sharing here that Samantha, um, she's
Mhm.
lost 4 family members in the last 4 years, and
Yeah.
then her grandfather was unexpectedly died, so that's especially hard. So although
Right.
she's taken training before, she's hoping this refresher will help.
Right. So they're dealing with cumulative grief and traumatic grief at the same time. All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming, and I actually want to pray a prayer that we find in Psalm 91, verses 1 to 2. I just want to pray this prayer right now. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my rock and my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him I will trust. And one of the things about Christians working through grief, and I come from a kind of a Judeo-Christian perspective, is that even when we work through grief, God is there with us. He really is. One of the things I want to start with, by the way, I forgot to say this. We're gonna take a break on every hour, so there'll be a few breaks because we can't go nonstop here. But one of the things I want to start with is the definition of grief. And I trust this definition is helpful for you today. Um, and by the way, you feel free to take pictures of these slides. The ones that are copyrighted, we have the copyright on the bottom, like this is the American Psychological Association. And so I want to start by saying grief is the anguish experienced after significant loss, usually the death of a beloved person. The anguish experienced after significant loss, usually the deaths of a beloved person. And it can include all kinds of psychological distresses like separation anxiety, confusion, yearning, obsessive dwelling on the past, and apprehension about the future. So there's actually an anxiety piece to grief. As a matter of fact, some of the new research is including anxiety as part of the grief stages or grief process. I don't like the word stages. I'll tell you why in a few moments. But the grief process, and some people, some psycho people who work in the field of psychology are adding now uh, anxiety to grief because there's a large apprehension about the future. Intense grief can affect us physically, in extreme cases can produce all kinds of things. Even suicidal thoughts have sometimes happened because of intense grief. Grief may also take the form of regret for something lost. So regret is often a major part of grief, whereby maybe, especially after a traumatic death, we feel neglect because maybe there was some unfinished business, maybe in the relationship, maybe we the person died while we were angry at them, and it could have been temporary, like a typical marriage has ups and downs. And so then that regret stays, right? Or remorse for something done, or sorrow for a mishap to oneself. So this is the definition of grief. One of my favorite verses in all the Bible, and when I talk about grief, is this particular passage. It's the one that, it's sort of my theological rationale for the Christian to be able to minister to those in grief, and also includes the issues we wrestle with when we are going through grief. This text says, "All praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. God is our merciful Father and the source of all comfort. He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we are able to give them the same comfort God has given us." So, first of all, we receive comfort from God. He comforts us when we are going through grief. And with that same comfort that the Holy Spirit gives us, we then in turn can comfort others. And so ministering to others has a number of components in it. So when someone's going through grief and loss issues, and like my neighbor, I've committed myself to be with him for 1 year and meet with him every week. That's my commitment to him, the one who lost his wife. Um, there are a number of components that we need to look at. They say typically in a grief situation, the first 3 months are sort of adrenaline phases. You have the funeral, lots of people are there. They bring dinner, churches bring dinners to your house, all those kinds of things happen. And then you hit a low time. 3 to 6 months into the grief phase is probably the worst time for most people. So the first 3 months you run on adrenaline. There's obviously massive grief, but then there's even a greater dip from 3 to 6 months. After 6 months, you start moving more into equilibrium, and in the grief process or stages, we call that the acceptance stage, where we are more prone to accept what happened. So during working through this grief, I think God wants us, first of all, to be ministers of encouragement for people who are going through grief. Then it's a ministry of patience. Um, People that are in grief, especially the first 3 months, but actually the first year, but the first 3 months, first 6 months actually may be the worst in this. Uh, they may be. So when I taught on a course at Masters called Pastors as First Responders, I had them memorize the ABC and CBA concept. Um, a healthy person usually goes cognitive, behavior, affective. Otherwise, some of you may be aware of cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Cognitive first, behavior, and affective, emotional at the end. But during grief, especially the first 6 months, this turns around. And I taught my students this. It's affective, behavior, cognitive. So cognitive often is not the ruling concept at that point, or the driver. It'll switch, especially in all kinds of grief, especially traumatic grief, but actually in all kinds of grief, it'll move to affective, behavior, cognitive. So I tell people that are in grief, like my neighbor, I tell him, don't make any crazy decisions in your first year, like sell the house. Or had one guy, his wife died of cancer and then was dating within months a woman who was 20 years younger than him, actually one of our PAOC pastors. This is years ago. And then he ended up divorcing her because he just was driving on the ABC principle: affective, behavior, cognitive. But that's what happens during the grief process. We move into affective, behavior, and cognitive. Those are the drivers. In the affective stage, we may say all kinds of interesting things that don't make sense. So I told my students in this course at Masters, they were becoming pastors, when the person is in the affective stage, just listen to them, empathize with them, show presence, don't necessarily agree with them, and don't do anything. Don't say anything to kind of thwart them off course unless it's drastic. Like, I bet this young girl, my wife died last week and I met this girl and I'm going to marry her. If it's drastic, then then we have to intervene, I think, as leaders, and say, don't do this. It's not healthy. But generally speaking, in the affective behavior cognitive stage, the ABC stage, which is primarily the first 6 months, the people in grief will say all kinds of interesting things, right? And I just say, just listen to them. They'll say things they don't mean. And I've experienced that in almost every grief issue where I've dealt with people in grief, that the first 6 months is difficult. After 6 months, and I told my students this, after 6 months, the brain begins to do a switch. We don't even have to mention it. You'll start moving again into cognitive behavioral affective thinking. It'll sort of happen naturally. Does that make sense? Everybody okay with that? I can't get feedback because I can't see you, but so it's a ministry of patience, especially in the first 6 months of the grief process. It's also a ministry of genuine love. We actually minister to people because of our love for God and our love for each other, and it's part of the great commandment that we are called to love God and to love our neighbor as ourselves. And so working with someone as they're processing grief is an act of genuine love. By the way, I'm going to back up because I'm going to tie something into the ministry of patience. In the this all ties into love and patience. So Elaine, if you can go back to the slide, ministry of patience. In the ministry of patience which is drastic in the first 6 months. Be careful what you say to people. When Elaine's mom died, one of the pastor's wives said the Lord needed her in heaven. We can say things that are extremely hurtful. And presence is more important than theology at that point, because what we say can hurt people a lot. It has to be a ministry of patience, right? And so that's a ministry of genuine love and the need for presence. When people are in grief, I have found that just being with them, sitting with them, saying nothing, listening to them is one of the greatest tools that we can use and one of the greatest gifts we can bring to someone. Just listening, the need for presence. In this particular phase, I may ask questions like, what did your husband do for hobbies? What did he enjoy? What were some of your vacations like? And it was amazing that when I asked these kinds of questions, I was just trying to be present. Then the person who was grieving would open up and just engage and talk and talk and talk, as that person was reminded of some of the wonderful things that their partner did. And I would consider that to be under the presence category, where we can actually ask questions. What did they enjoy? What was some of your fun times? And we a type of catharsis happens, where you're healing through talk therapy. Emotional healing is happening through talk therapy. And in the state of presence, I often say, don't say much, but if you're going to say anything, ask them about the person who passed away in a positive way. And then the need for listening. We're going to do a little listening exercise at the end, but body language is huge in this particular phase. 80% of our communication is body language. Not every culture is open to eye contact, but if you're in a culture that is, then eye contact is vital. Don't be on your cell phone while you're trying to listen to somebody. be really present and really listen and actually listen to what they're saying so that you can reframe, which is say, for instance, so what you're saying right now, I'll give you an example. What you're saying, somebody says, I'm really struggling. I just feel like banging the wall. And then you can say, so what you're really saying is that you're really hurting right now. Just reframing that. And that in itself also carries a therapeutic component. And so then the final one is the need for joining. I think that's the last one. I can't remember. Yeah, the need for joining. And joining is simply having permission to minister to someone. And church community is really good because you get to know people over the years and you can join the relationship really, really easily. In psychotherapy, if you go to, I was trained in psychotherapy, and if you go to a psychotherapist, and I don't know if you've ever gone, but if you do, the first three sessions are joining sessions. And you might not know this, but the first three sessions are where trust is built, confidence is built, trust that it's confidential, trust that there's a relationship. And it takes a psychotherapist 3 sessions generally to really allow the joining to happen, which will then create an environment whereby the person can open up. Well, in the church, the joining happens because we know each other for years. But joining is vital. So if we're going to be ministering to somebody, we need to have their trust, right? And so the joining phase is really, really vital. I'm just going to ask quickly, Andrew, if you can help me on this one. Any questions about what I just shared? And then we're going to do a little group work. So here are the points again. Elaine, if you can go back to them. Ministry of encouragement, ministry of patience, ministry of genuine love, need for presence, the need for listening, and the need for joining. Any questions regarding what I just shared? Anyone? And online, you can put it in the chat if you want. Any thoughts?
None
If
here.
not, I'm going to move on. Sorry, is there somebody?
Nope.
Okay. So then we're going to go into group work. Elaine, if you can do this. And I'm going to let's take 5 to 7, or as somebody said, 6, 7 minutes. I guess 6, 7 is a new word. Um, to do some group work. Have you ever provided any of these 5 uh, these pillars, these 5 pillars? Have you ever provided encouragement to someone who's going through grief or patience or genuine love or presence or listening or joining or received it at some point in your life? I'd like to hear some testimonies tonight. So in your groups, and then we're going to ask for a spokesperson to present some of these, all right? One person for each group. I don't know how you want to divide. How many do we have online, Elaine, right now? How many people online?
We have 6, I think.
All right, we could say 3 to 4 to a group. So maybe online we'll do 2 groups. 3 to 4 to a group, then ask somebody to be a spokesperson and have a response as to have you to this particular piece here. Have you ever provided any of these kind of components or received some of these during some point in your life when you were going through grief? Okay, let's take 6, 7 minutes. Everybody okay with that? All right, thank you.
The breakouts are closing in 40 seconds.
Yeah, I can see that. All right. If we can reconvene, that would be awesome. And so, Pastor Andrew, if you can walk around a little bit, and then we'll do the online people afterwards. And if every group can sort of have a spokesperson, have you provided any of these kinds of um, ministry tools or received some of these at some point in your life? Anyone?
All right, Brad, I'm closest to you, so.
Yes, I've been on the end of receiving these in my life. My wife would have passed away 10 years ago, the age of 42. And so there was a lot of people who, within the church I was at, came just to provide support and encouragement. And I think what you touched on with patience and presence for those that are ministering, that's important for them to be like that, and just being able to listen to a person while they're going through the grief in the early stages.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. So good. Anyone else?
Hi. So we
Hi.
have Carolyn's done quite a bit of encouragement and patience and genuine love, listening, joining with one of her patients that she shared with us. And
Yeah,
it's quite intriguing and motivating to hear that, how much love can be with somebody. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
this man died of asphyxiation and he didn't have
Wow.
to. And it was just, it was a patient, like she just wasn't
Yeah,
there. And he
yeah,
just didn't have the right medical staff to be with him that day. And
yeah,
so she's had a hard time with that, but we support her.
yeah,
And little Nancy
yeah,
lost her husband
yeah.
in a car accident 9.5 years ago.
Right,
And I can feel her pain. It's a
right.
hard one because, when you don't expect things to happen and it does, you don't
Yeah,
have time to prepare. When
right.
somebody is sick, you have so much time to sit with them and love them and hold them and be there for them.
Yeah,
But like Len, her husband, and my Jamie was taken from me too. And
yeah.
it was a traumatic, and I think that's her and I are probably going to come to a traumatic session here.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
Jamie
yeah.
was, we had suffered a home invasion back on November 9th of 2022 in Southern Ontario when
Wow.
Jamie was murdered in front of me, my husband.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, so it wasn't anything to expect. And when,
Yeah,
like they take him away and it's
right.
over, and the next thing you know, you have police at your door and everything's happening and you've got a massacre to
Yeah,
look at and you've got to clean it all and you're by
yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
We owned a business and one of our employees that had come in on the occasion. So then his
yeah.
family didn't allow me to go to his funeral. Um,
Wow.
didn't allow me to be a part of the family after that because they
Yeah,
blame me for his death. Um,
yeah,
I've had a really hard time, and it's been 3 years.
Yeah.
My life spiraled out of control. I
Yeah.
was 49 at the time, and well, I was 48 when he died. I'm 50 now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's been a really, really difficult
Yeah.
journey. And
Yeah.
I'm like, can't even explain that. If you don't have the time to prepare for a death, anybody, I'd have 2 registrations. Like, I'm the most educated, stupid person I say you'll ever meet.
Wow.
But
So sad.
honestly, it goes from here to here in 2 seconds. And next thing you know,
Yeah.
you're not who you were. And I came
Yeah.
home a year ago with sobriety under my belt now. And it's been a year
Right.
and a half of sobriety. And
Beautiful.
my family has accepted me back, and my sister-in-law, Carolyn,
Beautiful.
and there's no judgment. And I don't tell
Beautiful.
my story with openness because it's an embarrassment to some people, but I'm
Yeah.
here to teach because it's
Right.
honestly, it's something that is everybody goes through it.
Yes.
Grieving is not an easy process, and nobody can tell you how to do it properly.
That's right.
When you fall on the ground and you have panic attacks, and 5 hours later you're still
Yeah.
sitting in the same corner and you're crying and you don't remember
Yeah.
how you even got there,
Yeah.
that's when the
Yeah.
doctor kind of gets involved with your life because they're going, okay,
Yeah.
40 milligrams of Prozac and Seroquel to sleep, and
Yeah.
we're good now. But I have to
Yeah.
be
Yeah. Yeah.
medicated. Like, the
Yeah.
panic attacks are horrible.
Yeah.
PTSD, walking down a street,
Yeah.
I can't handle people walking behind me. Like, it's just the
Yeah.
stupidest little things that people don't understand that we learn from a popping
Yeah.
balloon, a smashing glass on a floor. Like, it's little
Yep.
things, right? It's
Yep.
hard. It's hard.
It's-
Life is not an easy task, and it's a journey every step of it. I've been
Yeah.
to rehab therapy because of this, and trauma therapy,
Yeah.
and did 5
Yeah.
weeks of trauma therapy. And
Yeah.
it's definitely helped, but it doesn't cure you. Nothing
Yeah.
can cure you but us and God, honestly.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
I'm here. And Carolyn is
Yeah.
here, and she's my support. And as much as she
Yeah.
doesn't know that, she really is.
Right.
I'm not going to let her go. She's my sister-in-law for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I do a number of seminars on PTSD and the amygdala, the right amygdala, the left, the prefrontal cortex. And the right amygdala will actually never turn off, once you're in PTSD. It's always on high alert unless God intervenes and there's a healing, and counseling helps a lot, I think. But I go to a church where the pastor is a retired police officer, and he preaches with a service dog. And he has PTSD, and he's gone through trauma. And I I tell you, anyone who's gone through a traumatic event, those are difficult. I actually had a similar thing happen when I was pastoring a church in Paris. There was a homicide, very similar years. The guy came in and it was a murder, and Elaine and I worked through that whole process with the family, and it is really, really difficult. I'm so honored that you shared today, and also understanding that in the church we need to deal with stigma and get rid of these stigmatic kind of things that sometimes have been there. Trauma is a real issue. PTSD is a real issue, and when I do my traumatic grief seminar, uh, I will touch on some of these things. So thank you. I'm so honored you shared. Anyone else? Do we have another person in the church?
Yeah, my name's Melanie as well.
Mhm.
I am a nurse. I've been a
Mhm.
nurse for 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
When about 14 years ago now, I was working and there was a code and I didn't go to the code, but then I answered the phone a little bit later and the doctor said, "Hey, Mel, can you come down?" So I figured they wanted me to change out for compressions.
Yeah.
And he met me in the back hall and it was my dad that was being coded.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And because I was a nurse and you're supposed to be stronger,
Yeah.
they hadn't allowed any of my family in the room, but they brought me in the
Right.
room.
Yeah.
And of you know, you go from a nurse where you're being the
Yeah.
one that's helping people
Yeah.
to walking in and seeing that.
Right.
And they had to grab a chair because I was going down.
Right.
You know, it was amazing though, because when I did go back, I had post-traumatic stress, big time. I
Yeah.
couldn't go down
Yeah.
to emerge. If a
Right.
code bell went off, I'd freak.
Yeah. Right.
And my coworkers were amazing. They kept that from, they allowed me to have all the time I needed. And then months later, one of them actually came down with me to the trauma room and let me just cry and get through it.
Yeah.
And just sat with me for hours. It was a quiet night, and
Yeah.
but it's really hard to get through that.
Yeah.
And continue working when
Yeah,
you're it's the two hats. It's the being a family member and losing people,
Yeah.
and also being a nurse. And then later, years later, I ended up having an injury where I almost lost my leg multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, you know, you were a nurse, now you're the patient, and you're having them minister to you because you're
Thank you for sharing. Traumatic grief carries with it triggers and panic attacks and flashbacks. And it can be very, very difficult to in life to work through some of these things. So we want to engage in God's comfort and comfort each other and provide tools for comfort to happen. So I'm grateful for that story as well. Do we have anybody else? Then we'll go online. I don't know if there's any other
Yeah.
groups.
Yeah, so our group, we have one lady who's already gone through grief because her husband passed and her stepfather is dying. In my case, I lost my mother 33 years ago, not 40. I made a mistake, but
Yeah.
I think this time around for me, it's maybe more difficult in some ways because you showed that slide with 5 things, and I was lucky when my mom died.
Yeah.
I had a whole family.
Yeah.
It just took me on
Yeah.
for probably 2 years.
Right.
And at the end of 2 years, the sister of the mother of that family told me that I'm healthy now. And I looked at her like, huh? She said, you had a total flip. She said, and she didn't know me.
Yeah.
But I'd went from being a serious person to being an off the wall person. I mean, really off the wall. Nothing was serious after my mother died. Nothing.
Yeah.
Which I had a really hard time with, but I didn't know. But this time around, it's a little different because that family has now moved away.
Yeah.
And I'm having problems because I'm hoping that you'll talk more about it. But you mentioned the one word that is huge, stigma.
Yeah.
Which I know about because I taught mental health things as a unionized worker. But the other thing that's really hard is you don't want to be a burden on somebody.
Right.
So quite often when somebody asks you a question, you'll just pass it off. So that's where the active listening really comes in play, because if people aren't actively listening, they don't know that you're passing it off. I don't know if anybody else here wants to share anything.
Well, in my case, it was quite different when my husband passed away.
Yeah.
The guidance of the Lord led us all the way through it about, probably a week and a half before. So we knew it was coming. Very much so, to where our daughter-in-law was my support, and the Melanie just before is our daughter-in-law. And she, being a nurse, saw all these things happening to my husband that I didn't know about because I'm sure not a nurse.
Right.
But led me through it right up until the very last, all the way through, when we read the word all the time in the morning and at night. Right at the very last was a scripture that we used at his memorial service, which where the sinner Jesus turned to the sinner and says, truly, truly, this day you will be with me in paradise. To which my daughter-in-law pointed at me and she said, and that's for you, mother. And I thought, where are we going here? Like, I wasn't 100% ready for all of this. But the guidance of the Holy Spirit, I have to say, was absolutely tremendous.
Yeah.
Absolutely tremendous when he felt he was such a comforter.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to lean on, that and family.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Have we, Pastor Andrew, sort of covered the church there already?
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think we have 2 online groups. Do we have some a person that will be a spokesperson in terms of these 5 kind of pillars in terms of help encouraging one another or comforting one another? Do we have somebody who would like to talk?
I can chime in if it's okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So hi, I'm Sandra. If anybody doesn't know that, but
Yeah.
so one of the things like that just stands out to me, and I was talking with Rhonda in my group, and so on my end, I was more on the receiving end.
Right.
When my sister passed, she we had like a good 24 hours basically. We knew what was happening, so we had time to
Right.
gather people around, and like
Yeah.
Pastor Andrew was there, and he was there for anyone that needed that support.
Right.
And then like Rhonda had mentioned that she was the one that was on the opposite end, so she was giving the support in past
Right.
experiences and stuff like that. And I think with even I'm still 5 months in, and I feel like I'm sort of doing both. Like I'm receiving the love
Right.
and support, but I'm also trying to pass it along to those that need it that don't necessarily
Right.
have the same systems for comfort.
Right.
And so it's an interesting place to be. So I just wanted to sort of chime that in.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And I think we had one other group. Is that right? Does somebody want to say something from the other group? No pressure, but or okay. If not, no problem. Um, I'm gonna tell you, are you guys okay with a little bit of, sometimes a little bit of humor is good too, right? So my neighbor, it's actually 6 pillars here. I should do math better. My neighbor said to me, he says, I really love our church because our church, Cedarview Church in Newmarket, has practiced all these 6 components. He came to this seminar I did and my trauma healing one. And he says, however, we were getting meals every day. And how do I say, Jerry, I don't need any more meals? But he was kind of joking. I said, just keep taking the meals, right? The church was really, really going overboard, trying to practice all of these 6 components. And they included it through their love language, which was providing meals for the family. A beautiful thing. So we're going to take let's take a 10-minute break. And then we're going to deal with what I call the outcomes of grief, or some of you may know it as the stages of grief. I don't like the word stages because you go in and out of these. And we'll just work through some of these outcomes of grief. But let's take a 10-minute break. Everybody okay with that? Get a coffee, or maybe you have to go to the washroom. We'll be back in 10 minutes. All right? God bless. Okay, welcome back. Can everybody hear me? We're good? Are we okay to start?
Yeah, we're just getting back to our seats now.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. I think you have that slide up, Elaine, right? The Dr. Kubler-Ross's Outcomes of Grief. Am I right?
Yes, I do.
So if you've ever done any work in grief, this is familiar territory for you that there are actually 5 stages when it comes to grief. I call them outcomes because you go in and out of these phases. Denial, first, you run on adrenaline. I talked about it. Got to prepare for the funeral, put a service together, lots of people at your house, people, and it's almost like it's not real unless you go to sleep at night and you start thinking about your partner who just passed away. Then there's the anger stage. There's an anger piece to this. Then bargaining. If only I would have been home at the time, my husband wouldn't have died. Then there's a kind of a depression stage, and then the acceptance stage. And here's a little picture of Dr. Kubler-Ross, a little write-up, a little bio of her. Feel free to take a picture if you want. Born in 1926, she began research in terms of those who were dying, so dying patients. We've transported this now into grief after a loss, but she was actually working patients who were dying and what they were working through, and realized that people that were in anticipatory grief, or patients who were sick and were about to pass away, went through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And so she did outstanding research, and she laid the foundations for the 5 stages of grief. I want to talk about the first one right now, which is a stage of denial. This is usually well, you can go in and out of the stages anytime. You can be, in acceptance and go back in denial. But often denial is the initial kind of whiplash effect, uh, where there's avoidance and confusion and shock and fear. And sometimes, if somebody was very sick, there may even be emotional elation because you don't, like my dad died of colon cancer, and my mom had to take care of him. And initially it was like she was relieved of that duty, but she still talks about him to this very day. That was 19 years ago that my dad passed away, almost 19 years ago. But often the initial phase is denial. Denial helps us minimize the overwhelming pain of loss. Then there's anger, frustration, irritation, anxiety. This lady in our church in Paris who lost her second husband, who she lost 2 husbands, as I said before. She was 40, he was 37, and we started a grief group in her home. And I was working through the stages. I spent 2 weeks in every stage, denial, and then 2 weeks of anger. And I kind of told him, next week you guys are going to start getting angry. And his mom, the mother of the young gentleman who passed away, she was always a type of in control, or often tried to be in control. She was a nurse and everything. And she said, I won't get angry. When you said to me anger, no, I'll be okay. And when I said next week you're all going to be angry, she was at no frills and started yelling at the teller. And then all the thoughts came to her as she remembered that I said you'd go through an anger phase, and she was transferring her anger, and she began to realize that this is true. There's an anger phase, and anger is difficult. There's so much to process. That anger may feel like it allows us an emotional outlet. Then there's the bargaining stage, if only, or what if, those kinds of things, struggling to find meaning. If only I would have taken my wife to the doctor earlier. What if I would have, had her in for a medical like 2 weeks ago, or those kinds of struggles. And it is common to be overcome by statements of what if and if only as we experience a loss of control over what is happening. And then there can be a depression that comes over us in the time of grief, where we feel overwhelmed and helpless, and there's hostility and flight. Depression is common. It is not uncommon during times of grief. The loss of a loved one is a very depressing situation. and depression is a normal and appropriate response. To not experience depression after a loved one dies would be unusual. So there is a depression state. And finally, there's acceptance. And eventually, especially after 6 months of a grief, we begin to slowly accept, although we can be in acceptance and then go right back into denial again. But in acceptance, we are no longer resisting the reality of our situation and we are not struggling to make it something different. So the outcomes of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Reality is we go in and out of these phases. And an expanded model of Kubler-Ross is this one. There's loss, there is shock, numbness, denial, overwhelming sadness, helplessness, confusion, anger, anxiety, panic, feeling low, loneliness, stress, the need to continue with everyday tasks while we are grieving. We still got to get the kids to school. We still got to go to work and have a job, all those kinds of issues, difficulties readjusting, taking on tasks from the person who died. Often in a marriage, tasks are worked out a little bit so it's more equal, and so to take on tasks from the person who died becomes necessary. And when do we engage again in social activities, and how do we build new friendships, and how do we reinvest in life and acceptance? So my friend, he used to always go everywhere with his wife, and now he is alone and he feels a little awkward because people from the church are inviting him and he has three little kids to their houses for dinner, and he's so grateful and he goes. But now all of a sudden, he's taking on some social activities by himself and without his wife. And the truth is that we are all over the map. There's no kind of linear kind of way that we grieve. We can go into everything from loss to acceptance to shock to all these things, and it's all over the map. And some people have added a sixth stage, which is finding meaning. How do we make sense of all of these kinds of things, right? So I'm going to ask you to go back into your groups because catharsis or talk therapy is really, really healthy. I'm trusting that we are all kind of confidential here today, that we're not going to go and talk about all this kind of stuff in front of other people. But sometimes a little bit of talking is really, really good. And I'm going to ask you to take about 6, 7 minutes to talk about how some of these grief uh, outcomes impacted you. And if anyone wants to share, they can. There's no need to share, but some of you might want to just debrief verbally. So let's go back, Elaine, to the sixth stage, finding meaning, and have that slide up. And so the question is, how have some of these things impacted you as you were grieving? Let's take 6, 7 minutes, okay? Thank you so much. Okay,
1 minute.
1 minute. Okay.
They're coming back.
Let's go to the next slide, Elaine. The question slide. How have the outcomes of grief impacted you? Great. Okay, are we back, Elaine? Think we're back now? Okay, Pastor Andrew, I know you have the microphone there. Does anybody want to respond to this? You don't have to, but if you want to, how have the outcomes of grief impacted you personally? Anyone?
I think looks like we're okay.
We're okay?
Yeah.
Anyone online want to share? Okay, if not, we're going to move on. And I'm going to talk now about the types of grief. There are several different kinds of grief. And as I mentioned, I have a whole seminar that we can do down the road on traumatic grief. That's one of them as well. Here are the different kinds of grief. And there's what we call normal grief. And normal grief is like my mom is 90 and she's got dementia and she's in a facility and I love her dearly. I talked to her yesterday. She talked quite a bit with me. She has good days, she has bad days, but she's 90 years of age. And I think when she passes away, there's going to be grief, but it will be more in the normal zone because she's lived a good life. She's a great Christian lady. She was a great example to all of us. There'll be grief, but it'll be more in the normal component. Then there's what's called anticipatory grief. That has come up already today. That whole discussion about anticipatory grief. Anticipatory grief is someone is diagnosed with a sickness. Like my dad fought cancer for 5 years. We actually start grieving right away, and often by the time someone has died, like my dad 5 years later, it's not like traumatic grief. We've already grieved. We're already well into the grief process or grief stages. We're actually in the acceptance stage often, although it's still hard when it actually happens. I remember when hearing the news that he had passed away and having to get on a plane and fly to Edmonton, but most of the grief had already happened in a lot of ways. Anticipatory grief is such that you may be at the funeral and you've already grieved, and people might look at you because there's all this stigma and say, why is he not grieving? Well, I already grieved for 5 years, right? Ambiguous grief, that's things like dementia, those kinds of grief issues that we wrestle with. My mom has dementia, and that's more like an ambiguous grief, where we are already grieving an illness, and eventually there'll be a death, but it is a bit ambiguous as to the impact, the ultimate impact of the grief. So it's often it's similar to anticipatory, but it's different because it's more like a physical issue that you don't die right away, but there's already, in a lot of ways, I've lost my mom already. Some people, my mom still knows me, but sometimes you have people with dementia and they don't remember their kids anymore, and that's called ambiguous grief. We've talked about traumatic grief. Traumatic grief is actually one of the most difficult things to deal with. It is like we heard the story about the murder. It's a sudden death that we are not ready for. In our brain, we actually have a system in our brain whereby it's plastic, and we develop new pathways in our brain to deal with issues. We talk about that in terms of addictions, moving away from addictions. You have to build new neural pathways in the brain. And so when you're in a 12-step program or something like that, you're actually developing new neural pathways. In traumatic grief, it works the same way, but the problem is traumatic grief, your brain is frozen. There's no new neural pathways to deal with the grief because your partner was there yesterday, alive, maybe had humor or joking. The next day, that partner is not gone. So now your brain is in a frozen state with no new neural pathways developed. And it is one of the most difficult types of grief, traumatic grief. And that's where I do my seminar on traumatic grief. Complicated grief is, or reactive grief, another name for complicated grief is reactive grief. After 1 year of being in grief, if you do not come to any kind of equilibrium, i.e., you don't get the kids back to school, you're not going back to work, we believe that crosses a line into a mental health challenge. And I was doing this seminar for a group in Guelph. They were working in a funeral home. They were kind of a group that was supporting those who were going through death and dying. And one of the ladies in the group that I did the seminar in a group there said to me, "Ah, now I get it. I know a lady that lost her husband 27 years ago, and she hasn't left the house since. Hardly has gone out. 27 years. And she would have had complicated or reactive grief." Most grief is cumulative. That means it's layered. So we're dealing with the death of a person, but then there's relationship issues underneath and unfinished business and family issues. So often when someone dies, there's actually layers of grief. I had a friend, he was where I pastored in Paris. He was a Christian guy, a director of a funeral home across the street. And he would sometimes debrief with me because almost fights would break out as when someone died within the family members as he came to see him. And that was a picture of cumulative grief. Then there is vicarious grief. Vicarious grief is a serious grief where you take on the grief of the person next to you. What a lot of people don't realize is most PTSD with police officers, first responders, nurses, most PTSD is vicarious. Unless a policeman is personally shot at, they're working with people who died, and it's vicarious grief, vicarious trauma that causes PTSD. It's not personal, it's the people they're ministering to. So if we know the impact of PTSD, say with first responders, vicariously, we can see how that can also impact a person. Like when we are dealing with vicarious grief, we're dealing with someone else who's got grief issues. It can have a large and huge impact. So normal grief, anticipatory grief, ambiguous grief, traumatic grief, complicated grief, cumulative grief, and vicarious grief. So normal grief could be described as the typical reactions people experience when they receive the news that a loved one has died. As I mentioned, if someone dies of old age, you will go through some kind of normal grief. Anticipatory grief, terminal illness or diagnosis, that kind of thing. Ambiguous grief, severe mental illness, cognitive impairments like dementia, those kinds of things. This is actually a second one as well. It's more rare, and that is if somebody goes missing, right? And that happens as well, where you sometimes have news flashes and somebody's gone missing and they never find the person. That is also ambiguous grief. And vicarious grief, as I just mentioned, getting emotionally involved on a high level with someone else's grief, vicarious grief, complicated reactive grief after 1 year not recovering, and cumulative grief, right? Which is often found in many deaths. There's underlying issues and traumatic grief. These are the concepts of grief. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask Elaine at this time to share her story of grief, and then I'm going to come back to this slide, okay? So, Elaine, do you want to share your story of grief?
Okay. Um, well, hello, everyone. I wish I could see all your faces, but I'm appreciating your responses and trust that this whole seminar gives you some input and some help. So all of us will go through grief at some point. As Jerry said, it'll be losing a loved one, a job, perhaps even one's reputation. And each person's grief is their own, and each of us walks our own journey. And so I thought it would be helpful just to share with you my story. I'm going to give you some of the things that happened to me. It may not happen to you in the same way, but it gives us some idea. And it also helps us help others so they can grieve in a healthy manner. So in November 23, 2 years ago, I lost my dad. As Jerry said, I'd lost my mom, I guess close to 19 years ago. But my dad was 89 years old. And although it is in no way like grieving the loss of a spouse or a child, I realized I still grieved. Even though my dad had lived a great life, he loved and served Jesus. He was ready and wanting to go to paradise, as he said. I lost someone very special in my life, and sort of came to the realization I was now an orphan. That gives you an interesting perspective as well when you are no longer have any parents on this earth. The first thing I noticed was a brain fog. I don't know if any of you can relate to that. I was focused on making flight arrangements back because we're originally from Edmonton, and so our family is there. And I had to let all the appropriate people know about it, dad's passing, and make the arrangements. So with all of that on my brain, I was blanking out on other things, such as what day is it? And where's my cell phone? And that fog can continue for a while. Also, I noticed a fatigue and numbness that set in. I needed more sleep. And some days I just felt numb, whether on other days I just cried. And I guess what I'm trying to do today is just make us remember. I'm sure we know this, but this is all normal and should be allowed to happen. And after the funeral and we returned from Edmonton, I was also decisioned out. I sort of coined that word. I did not want to make any more decisions. I told my daughters that they could decide where and what to do for Christmas. They could decide on the menu. I was okay with whatever they decided. The other thing I came to understand in a clear way that each grief is unique and is very much influenced by the relationship that you have with the person, the circumstances surrounding their death, and the emotional support system, and even the cultural and religious background. One of the grief specialists that I followed and that I read some of his stuff he's called Dr. Alan Wolfelt. He says that mourning is the open expression of your thoughts and feelings about death, and it is an essential part of healing. one of the things that comforted me a lot was this quote: "The presence of pain has never meant the absence of God." Can I say that again? The presence of pain has never meant the absence of God. And in our deep grief, we sometimes say, "God, where are you? Where were you? Why did you let this happen?" So it's important to remind ourselves that God is very much with us. Dr. Wolfeld, in his book called How to Help a Grieving Friend, he calls it companioning the bereaved. And so I've given you just a few points on what my grief was like, but now I just want to sort of turn the corner and just give a few things that'll help you companion someone who's bereaved. So many of you that are in this group, I gather, are in the grief process or have gone through it, but you will also encounter those who are grieving. And these are some of the things that I found helpful and that were valuable to me. There's a really amazing little phrase in Job 6, verse 14. And in the New Living Translation, it says, "One should be kind to a fainting friend." And certainly when you're grieving, you could be described as fainting. So it's important to recognize each person has a unique grief journey. Jerry and I have lost 3 parents between the two of us, and we've grieved differently for each situation. Part of being kind to a fainting friend is letting them talk about their loved one, as Jerry already mentioned. Because we were from Alberta and not that many people knew my dad here, it was when I found somebody that asked about my dad, asked about him, and knew him, that was especially comforting to be able to share about what I was feeling and how I missed him. Then I think being kind to a fainting friend is also being okay with grief bursts, as I call them, the physical and emotional limits that a grieving person has, as well as letting them ask the difficult questions. And newsflash, you don't need to answer them. In fact, you don't have the answers to the difficult questions that a grieving person asks. They're just asking them. And I believe we may someday understand a lot more, but we certainly don't understand here on earth why certain things happen. Lisa Turker says this, and I found this helpful: "Grieving is dreaming in reverse." Now, in her cases, it was the loss of a marriage, but whatever the loss is, when you're grieving, you're like working backwards, and dreaming in reverse, I think, is a really good phrase. And then I want to say this as kindly as I can. I think one phrase that we should just drop is the phrase "get over it," or "time to get over it," or "you'll get over it." I think we should never, ever say that, because I don't think it's really true. I don't believe you will ever completely get over a deep loss. You will learn a new normal. You will learn how to cope. You will learn how to manage, but you will never get over it. I don't think if we have deep relationships that we will just get over a loss. I wish I could see your faces and have interaction at this point, but if you've ever been told, "Oh, you should be over this." I had someone I was ministering to, and somebody said to her, "Oh, you never had a good marriage anyhow, so you're not really grieving." And that was so deeply, deeply hurtful. So one of the things in being kind to a fainting friend is don't expect them to get over it. And it's quite simple. Just be kind. Just be kind. I think this verse should be our guiding pillar in a way in the whole grieving process and wanting to help others. As Jerry started the whole seminar with that verse in Corinthians, right? We receive comfort from the Holy Spirit so we can comfort others. And we don't have to have a degree in trauma healing or in grief, but just being there and all the things that Jerry has mentioned. But just if we can remember to be kind, um, that's one of the things that's going to help those around us. And thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Elaine. And so my question is, what's your story of grief? Elaine, maybe we can go to the previous slide. Um, Again, normal grief, anticipatory grief, ambiguous grief, traumatic grief, complicated grief, cumulative, vicarious. I want you as a group take about 7 minutes to talk about how you dealt with any one of these, and you might want to just choose one or two of these, how you dealt with some of these grief issues, whether it's normal, anticipatory, ambiguous, traumatic, or complicated, or cumulative, or vicarious. Take about 7 minutes in your group to talk about how you navigated some of these different kinds of grief. And if people want to, they can share their story. We'll have a debrief time. Let's take about 7 minutes to do that. Okay? Thank you so much. So okay, welcome back. Can everybody hear me? Am I back on? Am I back on, Pastor Andrew?
Yeah, I was just away from the mic.
Oh, no problem. Okay, I'm going to ask whoever wants to and can share, if you want, your story of grief as it relates to one of these types of grief. And if you want, feel free to share. If not, it's fine. But if you'd like to, stories really help encourage other people. Anyone want to do that?
Yep. Okay, we got somebody.
All right.
My name is Nancy, and I think
Nancy.
I've pretty much gone through every one of those in different
Mhm.
parts of my life. My first traumatic grief was when my father dropped dead at when I was 12, at 45. And I've had many. I think I've had them all pretty much. But I think over Christmas, I was with my mother-in-law. She's 93 and has advanced Alzheimer's. Um, she knows me all the time, and she introduces me as her daughter-in-law. So I'm very thrilled with that. But my son and I made 2 visits to mom over the holidays. And the first one, I was extending a happy mom for Christmas from her son, her youngest son in Malaysia. And she just said, "Don't even talk about him." Oh no. Well, then she started talking about my husband, about he never comes. I don't know what he's doing. He never phones, never writes, he never comes. And I'm trying to explain that he passed away 9.5 years ago, and just don't even talk. Just don't even talk about it. So it was really hard for me because I said to my son, I don't want her to go to her grave thinking all these bad thoughts about her kids.
Yeah.
And then we went back the second time, and my son sat behind her, and all the time he kept saying, "Don't say anything, Mom. Don't say anything."
Yeah.
But and she was much better. But it's so hard when they can't remember. Like she doesn't think they feed her at all at the retirement home, and a lot of things. But it's just sad that and I don't even mention that, 2 of her sons are passed already, her 2 oldest. And one of our nieces has passed away, and a son-in-law has passed away. I just don't even go there. I don't know whether she was ever told, but she keeps telling me, "They never told me that Mom passed away." And I said, "Mom, she passed away like 40 years ago when I was expecting John." But she doesn't remember anything, and it's really hard for that. So I think I'm doing the ambiguous grief right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And as am I with my mom. Right. And it's hard.
It is. It's very hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
Yeah, at this table, we have normal grief, anticipatory grief, a bit of an ambiguous grief because the two go together, and a bit of cumulative grief because, there's a lot of family issues where some things you try to get along, but there's a question, are things ever going to go back to being normal? I think in my case, my sister's trying her best, but it's very difficult. Um, I think there's another grief there that should be added, and I don't know how to describe it, but it's like the unknown.
Yeah,
There's a story where where the loved one where they've gone. As Christians, sometimes we know that, but as Christians, sometimes we don't know that as well, and that's very difficult. In your wife's story of Job, we kind of discussed that and how, you got to read through the whole book of Job, and Job finally asked the question, why?
Why?
And God kind of, rather than say, there, Job, he kind of hit him pretty hard over the head, but he wanted Job to understand. And then at the end, God restored everything Job had and then some, but he kind of wondered why Job asked why instead of saying, well, and that's the other, so the presence of grief has never meant the absence of God. So I guess that's the whole point of the end of Job. And that's kind of what we brought up.
Yeah, it's good. By the way, you're not the first one to mention about like this grief that Christians have and it having to do with eternity, right? That whole grief. And I've heard that before in these seminars, and valid point. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
I've got something I could share.
Sure.
It's just as all this has been going on, we've been talking, it just got me thinking, and it's a little bit different, and I don't know how we would classify it, or even if you'd have something specific for this, Jerry, but it's like the grief that churches go through, because we become a family, we become close, and then as there's changes, COVID was really hard on a lot of churches. Our church wasn't immune to that, right? And so you see, it could be the loss of a pastor, it could be the passing of someone, could be the people leaving over disagreement or different things. And that's not something I wasn't prepared for. Training to be a pastor and then becoming a pastor is then experiencing the grief of a community and kind of those kinds of changes and realizing over time that's the experience that you're going through is actually you're grieving.
Yeah, good point. Excellent point. Thank you for bringing that up. And those were difficult times, right? I was interim pastor at Evangel in Brantford, and you're online, and then you're not online, and then you're allowed so many people. That was a big grief issue for pastors. Good point. One more person, or are we? One more person want to share? If not, the final section of this seminar, the last part, is how do we practically minister to people through using our listening skills, and learning how to comfort one another with the comfort God gives us. So that'll be the final section. But let's take a 10-minute break again, and then we're going to do the final part of this seminar, if that's okay with everybody. 10-minute break. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
There's still coffee and tea and hot chocolate, still snacks, and also ordered some pizza that just took a little longer to get here. So if you like something warm.
Okay, perhaps we can start again. Uh, I trust everyone can hear me. Pastor Andrew, I think everyone can hear me, right? Am I back on? Can everyone hear me?
Okay, we're just making our way back, Jerry.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Okay, just a few more moments, everybody.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah,
No problem.
hard to interrupt conversation.
So how's it going? Are we all back, more or less?
Are we ready to continue, everybody? Sorry, it's always hard to stop conversation, but
Yeah,
no,
no, it's
no. Don't be sorry. There's
fellowship is good.
Mhm. Yeah, I think
Just
we're
tell
good.
me when.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're good. Okay, Elaine, if you can go to the Breeze Journey highlights. We had a young lady in our church who lost two husbands. She was a social worker. She ended up running Grief Share at Cedarview Church, where I pastored. She did a great job, but here's a little highlight of her life. She was married in 2000. She had a child in 2003. That child is now 23. I see pictures of the child on Facebook. First husband dies in a car accident, tragic, traumatic grief in 2007. Her first round of grief. She reconnected with the church. She grew up in church, but walked away, but came back to the Lord. And then Bree met a young man named John. They got married. I forget what year it was. I think 2012. And then John passes away 2013 of heart failure, and Bree enters the second round of grief. And so grief is a very, very real experience. We've heard some of our stories here today. When it comes to a pastoral assessment of how grief works through a family, all of us grieve differently. Family systems play a role in how we grieve. Some of us are more resilient, some of us less resilient, and it's not a right or wrong thing. It's just the family system dynamics. But grief is grief, and traumatic grief plays a major role. And I said the next seminar I'll do, if it's okay, is on traumatic grief. But we all process grief differently. So the way we process grief plays a role in how we deal with grief. But one of the things that is very necessary is when we are comforting one another is practicing empathetic listening. So I've got a few pointers here. With empathetic listening, it is important to listen with your body language and look for signs in body language, tears and movement in the eyes, and how we present ourselves through our body language indicates often the amount of comfort we need. I did this seminar in a church previous to this church today, and I sat with a table, and they had just lost their young son in a car accident. Son was a Christian. What happened was somehow the car rolled, and his brother survived, but he didn't, and nothing was wrong in terms of doing things wrong. It just somehow his car went out of control, might have hit something, nothing illegal. And I just sat with this family. His wife cried and talked, and the husband was he was more cognitively driven, so he was trying to process through cognition what happened. Body language is a great indicator of where somebody is. And when we're going to listen empathetically, we need to clear away distractions. Ignore the cell phone. Just keep your eyes glued on the person and the person's eyes. Now, there's some cultures, I said, that body language is a threat, and we have to know the culture. But generally speaking, with most of us, eye contact is really good. Listen without judging, even if the story has some difficult pieces. Like I dealt with a man, he was in our church today. I didn't actually deal with him, but I know the pastor did, and he was involved in drunk driving and almost killed him. And as Christians, we listen without judging. We'll say, well, if you would have driven, wouldn't have been drunk, you would have been okay. You wouldn't have to go through all those surgeries. And no, we got to listen without judgment. And although self-disclosure is a little bit okay, don't make it about yourself, right? Don't say, well, I also lost somebody years ago. That's okay. But when the whole story is about your loss, when you're comforting someone, and it becomes all about you and how you need to grieve more, when we're ministering to someone, try not to make it about yourself. Although we all have our own grief, and it's good to talk about it in a community. I'm not opposed to that, but empathetic listening is to focus on the person who's just going through grief. Be present. Again, very similar to number 2, clear away distractions. And so if we go to the next slide, Elaine, pay attention to nonverbal cues like eye movement. If it's all over the place, if the person is looking like they're in shock, or if they're lots of tears or crying or anger, pay attention to those things. Avoid offering solutions. It's all about listening. It's the first part of grief, the first 6 months of grief: affective, behavioral, cognitive. Don't downplay their concerns. They may bring up fears that are unrealistic. Don't downplay them. Listen to them. As a matter of fact, validate their feelings, reflect their feelings. Say, I can see you're really hurting right now, and you're really worried about what's going on. And don't worry about getting it wrong. We won't always get it right. So these are a few thoughts here. Listen with your body language, clear away distractions. Listen without judging. Don't make it about you. Be present. Pay attention to nonverbal cues. Avoid offering solutions. Don't downplay concerns. Reflect their feelings. Don't worry about getting it wrong. So, which brings me to my final thought here, our final little exercise, which is empathetic listening practices. And what I'd like you to do is just find a partner, so one-on-one, and one person at first talks about any kind of story. You can talk about the weather, you can talk about sports, whatever. And I want the other person to listen completely to the story. So Elaine, go back to empathetic listening. Listen with your body language. Listen without judging. Be present. I want you to practice all of that. And then I want you to reverse the story. So the other person does the talking, the other person does the listening. And I want you to throw in something ridiculous, like which can happen in grief, which you say, you know what, I'm really angry at the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think I'm going to go on Facebook and really, share my mind with how upset I am at the team, or something that's a little absurd. And I want you to try to listen without judging. All right. And we can use a little humor. When I do this, sometimes people use a little humor, it becomes a little funny. But want to practice our empathetic listening with your body language, clear away distractions, listen without judging. Don't make it about you. Be present. Pay attention to nonverbal cues. Avoid offering solutions. Don't downplay their concerns. Reflect their feelings. And in other words, when they say, I'm really angry, and I say, you're really hurting right now, aren't you? Like, just reframe it and don't worry about getting it wrong. And let's take about 10 minutes to practice this. And then I'm going to do a debrief and see how you felt this exercise went. Is that okay? So let's just take about 10 minutes, 5 minutes with each person, and then switch roles. Thank you so much.
60 seconds, Jer.
I think we're all back now. Am I right? Are we all back? Can everybody hear me there?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. So how did that exercise go? Does anyone want to comment? How did that work out for you?
Yeah, we got somebody.
Okay.
Thanks, Pastor. And we totally blew it. We were sympathetic, though. We paid attention. I got
Yeah.
off somehow with a horse,
Yeah.
and here we are.
Yeah. Kind of a fun exercise, isn't it?
There you go.
Anyone else?
Getting late. I know. Blame it on the pizza.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit of a difficult exercise, isn't it? To be able to concentrate and practice empathetic listening. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, we got somebody.
Okay.
I just think in this supportive group that we've been practicing empathetic listening all evening
Yeah.
by not even
Yeah.
practicing, but just doing it. So I think
Yeah.
having a conversation where we're like forced to have to listen when you've already
Yeah.
been doing it all night was really strange.
Okay.
So we
All
just
right.
continued sharing and doing what we've been doing all night and listening to each other empathetically anyways.
So you guys are expert, like really good at this. So that's awesome. Yeah. Fabulous. Anybody else or?
Yep, got one more.
Mhm.
That one about throwing in humor, but also not to making suggestions.
Yeah.
Like, and also part of the earlier part of the seminar where you don't make rush decisions. Well, I'm
Yeah.
not a technology person by any means. I grew up in the
Yeah.
sandwich generations. So I received a
Yeah.
pot of money and forgetting that things on, like, when you click on it, it doesn't necessarily react right away.
Right.
Pay the same bill twice. And I said to her, I said,
Yeah.
I should go out to the bank and say they should fix that. And she says, instead of saying, oh, okay, that's probably something. She says, yeah, you're right. You should go out to the bank. You should fix that. So it is
Yeah.
hard sometimes not to A, offer solutions,
Right.
or B, jump on board with somebody else's solutions.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's good to just kibbutz, but then leave it
Yeah.
up to the other person to decide.
Yeah.
And I like the
Yeah.
other person's comment because I actually used that comment when I had my dad's celebration of life.
Yeah.
When you get kicked off a horse or you fall off the horse, you get back on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't let fear stop you from getting back on it. My dad was very, very empathetic of that. So to the point where I had
Yeah.
almost a fatal accident, and he made me get back in the car the next day and drive. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Well, that's good. Empathetic listening is really, really vital. Well, it's been an honor for Elaine and I to be here tonight with you. And perhaps we'll be back sometime. And talk about trauma healing, which is also a whole different ballgame when it comes to grief, dealing with traumatic grief. And traumatic grief, as we heard tonight through some of the testimonies, can have a profound impact on all of us if we're not careful. So I just want to thank you for allowing us to be here today. Again, some of the topics we covered today, they involved the importance of caring for one another, receiving comfort from God so we can comfort each other. We went through the vitality of being involved in ministry of encouragement and patience and genuine love and presence, and the need for listening and the need for joining. And we talked a little bit about the Kubler-Ross outcomes of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, and the different kinds of grief that we wrestle with. And they're not all listed there. People have come up with even more on this list, which is great. But normal grief, anticipatory grief, ambiguous grief, traumatic grief, complicated grief, cumulative grief, and vicarious grief. And we kind of processed some of that and then talked a little bit about the importance of empathetic listening. Thank you for having me. I'm going to ask Pastor Andrew if you would be so kind as to close today. It's been an honor for us to be here.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jerry, for coming online. And I hope that we can get you up here next time in person.
Yeah, be awesome.
So, well, everybody, I hope tonight has been helpful and encouraging. And I think for me, the big kind of takeaway is just how important this is, right? That we take time and make space to share and to listen to each other. And so, yeah, I definitely think that we will be doing this again. So, and
well, thank you. I'd be honored to participate in this. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Nancy, could I call on you to pray? Oh yeah, no, because we got people online too. So.
Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this opportunity to learn more about grief and the stages that we go through. And Lord, I just pray that tonight as we go home, that we will be able to go through it in our mind, and maybe if we took notes and just, rest in God. Let it just sink in, and so that we, as they said, because we are Christians and because we've gone through this, then maybe we can help somebody else. And as we talk, it makes it a little easier. So Lord, we just thank you for being here. Thank you for this wonderful couple that came to help us through this, and hopefully they'll be able to come in person next time. And Lord, we just thank you for the opportunities you give us to grow in you. And we thank you for this time together. In your precious name we ask it. Amen.
Amen. God bless you, and thank you for allowing us to come, and we look forward to another time. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Yes. God bless. Have a good night.
And
thank you to everybody who joined us online as well.
Thank you. God bless.